Everybody, thank you all for coming today. It means a lot to hear because lit RPG is a very underappreciated genre. It's almost literally unknown. It's been around since about 2013, and nobody's ever heard of it except for a very small, core number of people. We have a huge audience, though. Those people that read those books, they buy everything that's put out. So lit RPG is extremely popular to a nugget of people. Amazon recently just started trying to make it into a category unto itself. So when you go look at things, it'll say lit RPG or game lit. That's pretty much the same thing. The difference between lit RPG and game lit is how crunchy something is. And crunchy is just lit RPG has a lot of statistics and numbers. So it's like when you play a video game, it says you hit for 15 damage. That comes up, okay? Game lit, they don't do that. They just say you hit for a lot of damage. So those are the differences. So today I'm going to be talking about lit RPG and more, two of my favorite things. It's a blood spatter mashup of epic proportions. So, let's see. Right here. There we go. So what is lit RPG? Basically, it is something that I would say it literally rocks, okay? This genre is amazing. Why? Because lit RPG goes with every other genre. Every other genre. You name a genre, I can tell you it will work with lit RPG. Whether it is romance, sci-fi, fiction, horror, it all goes together. It's almost a prefix because lit RPG stands for literature role-playing game. Okay? So basically, the plot of the story is whatever setting you have, that person is either in a video game or in a gaming world that has those kind of sensibilities. So you may not be in a video game, but you would have a character sheet that would come up. And there's different things that regulate exactly how you know this is lit RPG or not. And that's it, and I'll get to it in just a second. But I want you to realize what it is, okay? So like I said, lit RPG, it's short for literary role-playing game. It came out in 2013, but the important thing to remember is it has very key components. Somewhere in here you'll either have stats, the people will level up, they'll gain experience points, they'll have an AI companion, or there'll be a game system that does different things and talks to them. It can have one of those aspects in the lit RPG or all of those aspects. But something there has to be there for it to qualify as lit RPG. And you can see right there the character sheet. Virtually every gaming book with lit RPG in it, the characters have a gaming sheet and they'll refer back to it. And that's again the crunchiness. If you get the game sheet at the end of every chapter, then you know it's crunchy because they're going to go through. You have a strength of 15, you've got an intelligence of 5, you've got this. You also carry all this equipment. You have these spells. That's how you know it's lit RPG. So there are some very obvious genres, of course. So you have sci-fi. This is Dungeon Crawler Carl. It is probably one of the best examples of the genre. It is sci-fi. It is basically a post-apocalyptic setting. Aliens come down and take over the world. They put people into a game system, and they have to fight to survive. It's almost like Spartacus meets, the end of the world, but gaming. Basically, Carl is the hero, and it is one of the biggest books out there. The whole series is amazing. And I'm not really big into cats, but the character here, very bottom of the screen in the corner, it's Princess Donut. She's by far my favorite lit RPG character. Princess Donut is amazing. I love her. If I get a cat, I want to name her Donut just because of that. The next one is fantasy, of course. This is Ascend Online by Luke Chemelenko. It is a very, very popular lit RPG book, but it's based on a fantasy genre. Now you're going to say, what about other stuff? We're not saying we even have things like westerns, okay? This is the Wicked West. So this person goes in, they've died, they can go into the virtual world of the game, and they can actually earn money for their loved ones who are still alive. But it's based on the Western time zone, but it's got the gaming rules and regulations. The nice thing about that is, no matter how high level somebody is, headshot, you're dead. You can be wide hurt, get shot in the head, done, it's over with. So it's very realistic in how it's portrayed. That's the nice thing about it. So you can see, there's your standard tropes, okay? Now I remember I was talking with Josh way back when my book first came out, and I was trying to explain how versatile Lit RPG is. And I was just talking to him about this again a little bit ago, and one of the people on the panel asked me, they said, well, what about farm games? I went, yep, there are a ton of Lit RPG farm games. I was reincarnated as a farmer. I was this, I was that. They have romance, so you name it, there's Lit RPG. So how does horror fit in there? Like Slender Man, it fits in very well. Slender Man can just stop fitting any squat he wants, right? Then slip into the corner. This fits this genre perfectly. I can't stress enough how great Lit RPG goes with horror. And the sad thing is, and again, I'm not trying to promote my stuff or toot my horn. I'm one of the very, very early people to do horror and RPG. For some reason, it just was never something that anybody did. I came up with a very nice story that fit the genre, and I think it did very well. But it wasn't until recently that other people have started coming into saying, here's what I want to do, here's what I want to see. I like horror, this is my story. So there's a lot of different people now that come into it. So like I said, Lit RPG is basically a prefix. It basically means the world that you are reading is a video game or operates on mechanics, but it's more fun, and it defines what the reader should expect. You know going into it, there are going to be game rules, there are going to be things that happen that the player has no control over, whether they're in a real world situation where they have gaming powers applied to them by a system like a god or something. You'll always know what you're going to get. And that's the nice thing about it, is you're never surprised. You're very surprised with a lot of stuff. So the question really comes down to, if you're into horror, most people who do these books play games. So would you like to actually play in one of those games as a person? How would you like to fit into that world? Can you imagine if you went into, let's just say, something like Five Nights at Freddy's? How fun would that be? It'd be great if you were just playing the game. But most Lit RPG style books, you're stuck. And if you die there, you die there. So it's very realistic. It's also something Dead by Daylight. I was talking to my son about this a little while ago. He was surprised I picked this. It's a really good game, but it's not one of those ones I like a lot because it's a pay to play. You've got to buy monsters and fight things. But if you were in that position, how would you feel if you were stuck there? And of course, the classic, and I mean the original Resident Evil, right? That is just a couple of examples that you would say, okay, I could play in that game. So somebody would make that game up, and you would go on, and it's almost like, what's the Meta by Facebook that they're trying to do now? That's a lot like what they're trying to do, is where you can go in and do certain things and interact. That's going to lead into this very same stuff. And there's different shows on TV now that have that. They have something on Amazon it's subpar, but how many people here have seen Ready Player One? Have you seen? Okay, that's Lit RPG. That is a Lit RPG story, except it's a little bit different because they're more in the outside world, and he goes into the gaming world to do things on the outside. Reverse that, and it's 100% Lit RPG. So Ready Player One's a good example, but I didn't include it just because it's not exactly what you got. Now see, this is me. I am this picture. I love everything about these monsters, these creatures, these people. I am the horror guy. This is like my lifestyle, okay? So when I did my book, okay, the Nightmare Game System, if you look, I play a little homage to everything. So there's a slasher, there's a blob, there's the thing at the bottom, there's a big zombie in the back, he's reminiscent of Tar Man. That's what I put in my book. I made it where the guy was kidnapped, he was forced into the game system, he's being tortured to give up information, and he has to go through different levels and fight different monsters in order to survive and hopefully escape. So that's where my idea went. Other books, again, these are very recent, okay? Slasher Online, no continues, no saves. You die in a game, you die. So you can basically see things you can expect in this book, okay? Female protagonist, okay? We all like Ellen Ripley, right? Okay? Game, lit, RPG, mechanics, and messages. That comes up. Splatter gore and extreme murder scenes. I will tell you, these books do not go back. They don't. They're very explicit. They're very gory. So if you like horror and you like it bloody, most of these books will do that. Not all do. A lot of them are also, and I'm not going to go into it right this second, but they have the mindset of like Evil Dead, 2. It's goofy, campy, but also fun and has horror aspects to it. This one here is one of the newer ones, and it's on Royal Road. You can read it for free. Royal Road, if you don't know what that is, it is a website that authors go to test out their material. They will put out chapter after chapter after chapter of a book, and the readers can interact. They can say, I don't understand why this character did that. Was this right, or did you mess something up? By the way, you used this word incorrectly. This sucks. Fix it. And the authors do. They listen if they want to do very well. In fact, the people that go on Royal Road probably make more money on Royal Road on their Patreon page than they do from selling books. Okay? They will go, like this book has got probably 300 chapters, 400 chapters. It's been going on for a long time. And that's because that person is making his living off of this book on Royal Road, on Patreon. Okay? But basically, this story is about a guy that grows up in the town of Carousel, and he is stuck in an endless loop. He gets to be a victim constantly. But he figures out, okay, as you'll see that he's a silent archetype, scholar, athlete, eye candy, final girl, those sorts of things. He figures out he doesn't want to be any of those things. He wants to be a bystander. And that means just a guy that just kind of stands there and doesn't pay any attention, and he doesn't draw the attention of the killers. And he pulls that off pretty well. So it's a really interesting story. It's just different. Ravenous. This is a good one. It's very horrifying in some aspects, but it also has some campiness because the character's name is Digby Graves, and he is a peasant back in the 1300s who was attacked by a zombie. He is trapped, frozen, and then he wakes up years later after being found, almost like Captain America. We don't know the Captain America story. He gets an iceberg. They resurrect him. Well, they do that with him. He wakes up, he's starving, he starts eating people. He gets his mind back the more he eats, and he kind of realizes, hey, I'm doing something horrific, but I can't stop, I'm starving. So he's trying to control what's happening, and he kind of gets lost in the morass of the zombie apocalypse as much as you or I would be. It's pretty interesting. Humans are delicious. Doesn't that sound really wholesome? Okay, basically this is a guy who gets isekai. And isekai is basically where you get drawn into another world by death or being summoned. And this guy gets put into the realm of a demon. And the demon likes to eat people. And he has to do anything he can to survive. It's pretty grim, very dark, very realistic. So, like I say, it's not suitable for younger audiences. My one son who's here is 21. I'd probably tell him to stay away from it for a little while longer. Because it's pretty graphic. So those were the really staunch, strong, really, what we're going to see is bloody mess stuff. The next ones I'm going to show you are going to be less than that. Fleabag is good because it's the evolution of a monster. It's where a wolf slowly evolves with different things into a various monster growth. He becomes this, he becomes that, becomes that. It's very interesting, and it's from the monster's perspective. It's always nice to have something different. And this is exactly what it sounds like. My best friend is an eldritch horror. Okay, so if you're into Lovecraftian stuff, that would be the book for you, because it is definitely that. I really can't go into more than what it says. You can almost imagine how it happens. The guy has an eldritch horror who kind of follows him around and he has to deal with things. I don't want to give things away if you're going to want to read these. So. And then we have this one, and this is, I'm actually reading this second book right now. It's called All the Dust That Falls. And when I first saw this, it looked to me like a demon coming out of a sewer grate. No, as I said, isekai, right? You're summoned to another world. Well, here in this world, wizards are trying to summon a demon to stop another force of evil. And they accidentally summon one of the most powerful beings in the universe, a Roomba. Okay? The Roomba is upgraded. He gets to have some intelligence to him, and he grows in power as the story goes along. He befriends a young girl. She becomes a devotee of his. She becomes a priestess, and he actually goes on to become so powerful, he's almost godlike by book 2. Okay? It's really interesting, and that's the wackiness of Lit RPG, because he levels up, and he grows, and he's got rules and regulations. I don't think you see that anywhere else. Okay, I really don't think you'll see that book anywhere else but in Lit RPG. And it's funny, and it's also kind of grim because there is death and murders that happen as the people go through. And he kind of does a lot of stupid stuff. He literally starts a zombie apocalypse on the planet, but he doesn't realize he does, and he's trying to stop it. So we'll see how that works out. Another book, Death, Loot, and Vampires. This is a gentleman who becomes a vampire in the game system, and he kind of has to grow in power, and he does that by different means. He drinks blood, he takes arcane objects, and his whole goal is to make himself more powerful so that he's not beholden to other vampires and can do what he kind of wants. And he kind of skirts being in trouble because he's not a bad guy. He doesn't drink people's blood, he drinks other things. So it's an interesting book, but it's the Vampire Vincent Chronicles. Again, crazy stuff. Reborn as a demonic tree. Man dies, he's hit by a car. He wakes up, he's a sapling, and a murder takes place next to where he's growing. He drinks the blood, and he becomes a demonic tree and grows in power. It's incredibly crazy. It's funny. He has a young girl who's a devotee of his. She becomes an acolyte, and she grows along with him in power. And as she ages, he kind of gets bigger and stronger. So they're kind of tied together. It's really bizarre, and it's actually kind of heart-touching, but there's still murder and things like that. So it's horror. It's all horror. Now this one, what really kills me is Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon. Okay, this is about a guy that is forced to fix giant monsters, and he has to cure them of problems. And this came out a long time ago. If you remember at the beginning of my thing, I said I was talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is who wrote Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is a one-shot. He only wanted to do one book of this, but it's written by the same dude who wrote Dominion of Blades. Well, no one knows Dominion of Blades, but they sure as hell know Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I never figured out why he'd never fixed that just yet. So Dominion of Blades is a good book. It's a great series. There's like 4 books in it, but it's not the same caliber as Dungeon Crawler Carl. Try saying that like 5 times real fast, by the way, it's perfect. Okay, so it's a really good story. So those are the types of things that you can see that we do with Lit RPG. Now, for silliness, this is a really good one. It's Morning Wood, Everybody Loves a Large Chest. Of course, you're looking at the girl thinking large chest, and you're wrong. It's what she's sitting on. If you're fans of Dungeons and Dragons, mimics are things that look like treasure chests in dungeons, and when you try to open them up, they'll eat you alive. Well, this one is a mimic that kind of gains sentience over time, and he goes through an entire evolution, growing stronger and stronger, and he basically murders a ton of people, destroys an entire town, summons demons. It's really interesting, but again, it's not for kids, because it does have sexual components to it, as you can see. But it's very bizarre, but if you like the monster point of view, you can't go wrong with this. You really can't. Another one is Headshot. This one is basically a guy's in the game, he's trying to earn money, and you get to go into it for so long, as soon as you're killed, you're kicked out. His first couple times he makes it in there, he's a zombie, he gets shot right away, he's done. But eventually he grows and figures out how to survive. It gets pretty interesting, and he does get more powerful as time goes on. But again, you can see it's the horror novel stuff. So it's Lit RPG as horror. Okay? Then we have The Dead Rogue. This is a good one because it's also about a gentleman who's trapped in a game, he can't escape. He starts off as a zombie, and he has to grow in power. So he goes from being a zombie to a ghoul, to a lich, to different things as he goes along. And he has to hide himself because everybody's trying to kill undead, of course. So he can't get out, but if he's killed in the game, he's going to die. So he's got to do everything he can to survive. So that is kind of the overall arching idea of what lit RPG does. Like I say, lit RPG is something that nobody's heard of. I didn't think I'd have anybody here today to kind of sit down and listen as I spoke about like what we do in lit RPG or what it is, and how well it fits into the horror genre itself. I can't think of anything more disturbing than you being trapped in a game where you're tortured over and over again by different things. And that was like my premise to start with in my book. The gentleman's captured, he's tortured until he coughs up some information about money he stole. And it goes from there. And it doesn't get better, it gets worse for him as he goes along. And that's just about how it would be if you were stuck in one of those games. It's pretty intense. These are all, they vary in intensity. So like I said, Morningwood, it's not quite as solid horror, but it is a monster point of view, and it does have the elements where, people die constantly. So it's not an easy read either if you're, younger or something like that. But that's basically what I want to just kind of do. Now I figured we'd have questions. But I want to thank you all for listening. If you want, as I said, you can go on Royal Road and read my new book. It's The Monster Squad, which is game and adventure. I tried to tone down the numbers in this one. It's the Darkest Nights Online trilogy. And it's basically about a guy who is avoiding a Lovecraftian apocalypse. And he goes into a video game to escape that. He's just going to live it until he's destroyed. But then that starts invading the game realm as well. And so he's got to do things to fight it off. And he kind of hooks up with a giant spider. It's a character. And there it is. Keyboard, which is kind of a dog-like person, and then a big ogre. So that's why it's the Monster Squad. It's also my homage to the 1980s movie, The Monster Squad, which is one of the greatest kids' films ever made. So that's all I have to say about that. But anybody here have questions? Because I figure this is going to be something that needs explained. No. Okay. I'm an excellent teacher. I didn't know I did that. So, okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. I hope this was interesting.